In November 1918, the world breathed a sigh of relief as the Great War ended. But what came after was unexpected, a decade of economic growth that transformed America. How did a global conflict lead to a booming economy? Stay with us as we uncover this remarkable turn of events. Welcome to today's episode where we connect the dots from the battlefields of World War I to the flourishing economic landscape of the 1920s in America. We're not just talking about economic growth, we're looking at how a war laid the groundwork for a decade known as the Roaring Twenties, the immediate aftermath of World War I. When the guns of World War I fell silent, the landscape of Europe was scarred and its economies shattered. But across the Atlantic, the United States emerged not only intact, but economically strengthened. During the war, American factories had run at full capacity, producing everything from munitions to food supplies, establishing the U.S. as a dominant industrial force on the global stage. The end of the conflict marked the beginning of a shift in global economic power. European nations, devastated and indebted, looked to the United States for loans and supplies. This shift was dramatic. Prior to the war, the U.S. had been a debtor nation. By the 1920s, it had transformed into the world's largest creditor. America's wartime economy had inadvertently set the stage for a surge in economic activity. With Europe in recovery mode, the U.S. had little competition and a vast market for its goods and services. Moreover, the war had catalyzed changes within the U.S. itself. The workforce had diversified, with women entering industries in unprecedented numbers due to the male labor shortage. This change contributed to a reshaped, more dynamic post-war American economy. As 1918 turned to 1919, these economic foundations began to set the stage for an era of unprecedented growth. The U.S. was poised not just to recover, but to enter a period of prosperity that would redefine its role in the world. This was the beginning of what would soon be known as the Roaring Twenties, a decade that would see America rise to new heights of economic power and cultural influence. This section outlines the pivotal developments immediately following World War I, highlighting the transformation of the U.S. economy from wartime production to peacetime prosperity, setting up the narrative for the economic boom of the 1920s. Technological advancements and consumerism. As America transitioned from war to peace, the technological innovations developed during World War I didn't just fade away. They found new life in the consumer market. The assembly line, once focused on tanks and airplanes, now produced automobiles and household appliances at unprecedented rates. This period saw the rise of the automobile as a symbol of freedom and status. Ford's Model T, affordable and accessible, revolutionized transportation and, by extension, American society itself. Roads expanded, suburbs grew, and the nation became more connected than ever. But the innovations weren't just mechanical. The era sparked a revolution in consumer behavior. Radios, previously a tool for wartime communication, became the heart of the American home, delivering news, music, and entertainment directly to listeners nationwide. With these technological advances came a new wave of consumerism. Advertisers quickly recognized the power of radio and the allure of cinema. They crafted messages that not only sold products, but sold a new way of life, steeped in modern convenience and luxury. As mass production made goods cheaper and advertising made them must-haves, consumer credit also expanded, allowing more Americans to buy more than ever before. This cycle of innovation, production, and consumption fueled the economic boom and transformed American life, setting the stage for a decade of prosperity built on the pillars of technology and consumerism. This section effectively captures the surge in technological advancements and their pivotal role in shaping consumer culture during the 1920s, underlining how these innovations spurred economic growth and societal transformation. The financial sector's evolution. The 1920s were not only about technological innovation and consumerism. The decade also witnessed profound changes in the financial sector that transformed the American economy. The rapid expansion of the stock market is a story of democratization and excess. For the first time in history, stock ownership extended beyond the affluent to the middle class. Americans from all walks of life were drawn to Wall Street, spurred by tales of ordinary people making fortunes overnight. This enthusiasm was fueled by the proliferation of buying on margin, where investors could purchase stock for a fraction of its price, paying the balance later as stocks were expected to rise indefinitely. Banks played a crucial role too. They not only facilitated these stock purchases, but also expanded their services, offering more personal loans and mortgages, further stimulating economic growth. Consumer credit saw an unprecedented rise, creating a new economy driven by both spending and speculation. However, this rapid expansion had its perils. The financial infrastructure was becoming increasingly complex and fragile. As more money chased stocks and real estate, the seeds of instability were sown, setting the stage for the eventual upheaval at the decade's end. This section captures the excitement and the underlying risks of the financial sector during the 1920s, detailing how innovations in banking and stock market practices contributed to both the economic boom and its vulnerabilities. Social changes and cultural explosion. The economic prosperity of the 1920s did more than just enhance American wealth. It transformed the social fabric of the nation. As cities expanded and industries boomed, the decade became a crucible for cultural innovation and social transformation. The most iconic symbol of this era was the flapper, the young women who challenged pre-war norms with their bobbed hair, shorter dresses, and freer spirits. This wasn't just fashion. It was a declaration of independence, reflecting broader shifts in societal attitudes towards gender roles. Jazz, the soundtrack of the decade, permeated through the cities, bringing with it a new sense of freedom and spontaneity. Originating from African American communities, jazz crossed racial divides and became a nationwide craze. Prohibition, intended to curb alcohol consumption, ironically facilitated the rise of speakeasies and illegal bars where people of all backgrounds mingled. This not only changed drinking habits but also social interactions, fostering a culture of rebellion and experimentation. This decade of change was marked not just by economic growth, but by breaking old boundaries and setting new cultural standards. From the arts to social norms, the 1920s roared with voices eager to redefine modern life. This section vividly portrays the cultural explosion of the 1920s, highlighting how economic prosperity influenced social behaviors and cultural norms, and set the stage for the dramatic social and artistic movements of the era. The dark side of the boom. While the 1920s are often remembered for their high spirits and cultural vibrancy, not all that glittered was gold. Beneath the surface of economic prosperity and social change, there were underlying issues that hinted at instability and impending crises. Despite the urban focus on growth and innovation, rural America did not share in the prosperity. Farmers faced declining crop prices and increasing debt. While cities thrived, agricultural communities struggled to survive, widening the economic gap between urban and rural areas. Moreover, the financial boom was built on shaky foundations. The widespread practice of buying on margin, a form of high-risk speculation, suggested that much of the stock market's growth was not based on firm economic fundamentals, but on borrowed money and unfounded optimism. The era also saw a rise in social tensions. The influx of immigrants and the great migration of African Americans to northern cities stirred urban unrest and racial tensions, challenging the nation's social cohesion. These issues foreshadowed the dramatic conclusion to the decade. The stock market crash of 1929 and the ensuing Great Depression would reveal the fragility of the 1920s boom, reminding us that economic growth must be inclusive and sustainable. This section addresses the overlooked aspects of the 1920s, providing a comprehensive view of the era's challenges and the contrasts between perceived prosperity and the realities of economic disparity and speculative excesses. Every era has its challenges and transformation. What will be our response and our legacy? How can we apply the lessons of the past to forge a prosperous future? What do you think are the parallels between the 1920s economic boom and today? How can we apply these historical lessons to navigate our future? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's spark a discussion that not only reflects on history, but inspires our actions today. Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration enlightening, consider sharing it with someone who'd appreciate this dive into history. Together, let's understand our past to shape a better tomorrow.